Hi there, I'm Mary Susie from Bead Me a Story, and today I'm going to show you how to make our Shaggy Magatama bracelets. This is actually the first video that I ever made, and I wanted to redo it because this particular project remains the standard for the perfect first-time beginner chainmail with bead creation. It's just very easy to do. I'll walk you through every step of the way, and I'm also going to put a link to our opening and closing jump rings video, which I think you will find helpful. Even if you know how to open and close jump rings, this will give you a little bit more information that's going to help you along the way and help you get even better at it. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started on this project. Okay, so to get started with this project, the first thing I've done is laid out some of these jump rings and rubber O-rings. So this is the thicker jump ring, and this is an 18 gauge 3/16 jump ring. And this is the 7.25 millimeter O-ring. Now you can use different sizes. This is a really forgiving weave, so you can really use any size you want. I just find that this size is nice. It's small enough and yet large enough to be very simple to work with. So that's why I chose to use these sizes. Now I'm going to go ahead and put one more rubber O-ring down here so you can see O-ring, jump ring, O-ring, jump ring. We're just going to start by making a 1x1 chain, okay? So we'll start that by picking up one jump ring, and we'll pick up 2 O-rings. Okay, and I have lots of room, so I'm going to use my bent nose pliers backwards while I have tons of room to do it with. Normally, I will use the pliers this way, where I'm just using the points, but a lot of times you can get a better grab on the jump ring by doing it this way, because as you can see here, we have tons of room to work with. So as long as we have that, you can certainly use that plier backwards if you're using a bent nose plier. Okay, now I'm going to come in with another jump ring, and I'm just going to pass through one of the jump rings that's already here. Okay, and then I'm going to pick up a new jump ring, or new O-ring, I'm sorry. I pass through the O-ring that's already here, and then I pick up a new rubber O-ring, and this is going to lengthen the chain that we're working on. Again, this is just a simple 1x1 chain. Okay, so now you can see it has 3 rubber O-rings and 2 metal jump rings. Okay, so we'll pick up our next metal jump ring. I'm going to pass through one of the rubber O-rings, pick up a new rubber O-ring, and close. Okay, so very simple. You are just going to continue this to the length that is specified for your size. So in the kit, it tells you exactly how many rows you will need for this size. Just to kind of mention this, in my kits, the supply list is always based on an average medium wrist. So your supply list will be based on a 6.5 inch wrist usually. But the size chart that will be at the end of your tutorial will tell you how many you actually need. And just so you know, the kits are always have enough materials to make the largest size that I specify in that size chart, okay? So just to clear up any confusion with that. Okay, and you can see I am just going to keep this chain going. I'm going to keep it growing until I have all of the 18 gauge 3/16 jump rings and the 7.25 millimeter O-rings together in a long chain. So I'm going to pause here and I'll be right back to show you more. Okay, so now you can see I've finished the length of this chain. I have 21 rubber O-rings on here, and I have 20 metal jump rings. This is the 21st jump ring. So there should be one jump ring left when you have your completed 1x1 chain. And at this point, we're just going to set that off to the side, and I am going to start adding Magatama beads to this project. Okay, so I have gone ahead and pre-opened all of my 20 gauge jump rings. Now I found that the 20 gauge 5/32 works the best with the Magatama beads. It's a fairly large size around, and you definitely want a 20 gauge because it's going to fit better through the holes of the Magatama bead. When I first started making this project, I used to use an 18 gauge 3/16 jump ring to add the Magatama beads on. But I stopped doing that because, of course, beads can have a variety of different hole sizes. So I actually started using the 20 gauge because I found it was just more reliable. And as you can see, these are just going to dangle off the sides, okay? They're not going to be holding any of the weight of the bracelet. And, you know, this body is really, this is the part that's doing the work. These are just almost like a charm. They're just dangling off the sides, okay? So they're not bearing any of the weight, and therefore using a 20 gauge jump ring just made sense because it's going to fit through more of the beads. You're not going to have to throw a bunch of beads off to the side, which is what we used to do when I first started making these. Okay, so you can see here, I am just laying these on either side. And I'm going to start by applying my first set to this first jump ring. Now, when I get done doing this whole length, I am going to come back and add to this rubber O-ring that's at the start, and I'll be adding 2 jump rings with Magatama beads to the end too. But I just don't like to start there because it's easier to tell where my end is if I start on the first jump ring instead of the first O-ring. So just to explain to you why I do that. Okay, so I'm going to pick up my 20 gauge 5/32 jump ring, and when I pass through the Magatama bead, you can see the hole goes up at an angle this way, and if I looked at it this way, it goes down at an angle. I think it's very hard to work with it down, so you always want to look for the side where you're going up into it, okay? And I think you'll see what I mean when you have this in front of you. Okay, so I'm going to add this through the first jump ring. Again, with this project, I have just so much room to work with. I don't really have to worry about only using the tip of my pliers, which is what I normally do. Okay, so you can see I have one hanging off this side. Now I'm going to grab the left-hand side one. Okay, and if I grab this little O-ring at the end, I can really clearly see which side of the jump ring that this is hanging on. Okay, so it flipped over on me, so now I'm actually adding it to the right, but originally that was the left-hand side. Okay, so just make sure it's on the opposite side of the work from the first one that you applied. And that's all you're really trying to do. So now we've applied 2 Magatama beads to this first jump ring. Now we're going to apply 2 to this second O-ring. Okay, so you can see we're going to add 2 Magatama beads to every single row of this. So that was on one side. You can have your stuff just in a pile here too. I'm trying to show you that there's 2 sides of it, but it's okay to just work from the pile if you understand what I'm showing you how to do. And you can see that the first one was applied over on this left side. So now I'm adding a Magatama to the right hand side. Just to point out, you need your jump rings open just a tiny bit more to get it through the O-rings. You can see this is a bit thicker than this is, okay? So when you're first starting out, you know, a lot of people just way open their jump rings too much. You can see I'm open just about 1/4 of a turn with that jump ring. You don't want to open them too much, but you want to open them just enough to where they can get around that rubber O-ring. Okay, so now I'm working I'm applying these to both sides of a jump ring. Okay, and again, I'm finding the low side that's going to go up to the high side of the Magatama bead, and that is the easiest way. Plus, when you think about it, if you keep grabbing your Magatama beads as you go along, it's going to look like your beads are going in different directions, and that may be something that you want, but I just find if I keep everything going in the same direction as I work up this chain, that it looks better when I'm finished. Okay, so you can see that we have all of our jump rings and all of our Magatama beads here to work from, and I'm just going to keep going until I have this completely filled up, and then I will be back to show you how to finish this. Okay, so as you can see, I've filled this up completely, and all the beads are sitting on both sides of this, and it remains stretchy because of the rubber O-rings that we added into here. And then all we want to do to finish this off is, and I'll just remind you that I did fill in these end ones with one on each side, but you see they're just going to flop down and be together. So we need to make sure as we finish these last steps that we are separating the two that are on either end of this. And I'm just going to take, if you remember, we reserved this one jump ring from the beginning steps, the 18 gauge 3/16, and I'm going to pass it through here. But see how I'm making sure each of these is on either side? Okay, and then as we join up with the other side, we want to do the same thing. So here's those two that are attached to this end O-ring, and I'm going to pass through and close my jump ring. Okay, and then you can see these are both have beads sitting on either side of the O-rings. So we just have this one final jump ring to fill in here, and as you can see, I've got two jump rings. These are 20 gauge jump rings and two beads sitting off to the side here. And I'm just going to pick up one of these, and I like to put this kind of on the outside because as I lay this down, you know, it could be very easy to lose our place here and not be able to find this one last connection. So notice how I kind of hold the bracelet up with this, and I kind of lay it carefully so that this is out at a point. That way I don't lose my spot, because that would be unfortunate at this point. And here's our other bead. You can see I'm just going to pick this up right here because I left it where I could see it really easily. Pass through the other side of it and close. Okay, and that's all there is to it. Shaggy Magatama bracelet. This is really easy to make, and you can do it in just tons of different colors and styles of Magatamas. You can use other types of beads too, but for some reason this this particular bead, people seem to really love this bracelet, and we've been making them for a really long time. So I hope you love this project. If you do, be sure to like and follow us on YouTube, and you can find everything here, including either kits for these or supplies to make these, at beadmeastory.com. Thanks so much. I'll see you next time.